Here we go.
All right.
Episode 12.
12, yeah.
It is a podcast. Welcome, everyone. This is where we believe truth is the cornerstone to your success. And today we have an awesome topic. It's me and Andy rocking out.
We're missing our other partner. We're missing Ricky today.
Your boy Ricky's a little under the weather, but it's okay. Here, heal up. We're sure of that. But today's topic is something that I think everyone listening to will and definitely can benefit from. I know that, Andy, you and I hear all the time the question of, what do we do for exercises? Where do we start? We don't have a lot of time to spend at the gym, and what should we do? So today we want to dive into a few exercises that Andy and I feel are going to be the biggest bang for your buck. It's obviously, as a disclaimer, this is generalized. Programming should be individualized, but what we're feeling is these movements for the majority of people, including ourselves, has provided phenomenal results.
Yeah, everything on my list is stuff that I still do regularly. So, and I think you said like biggest bang for your buck exercises. For me, I was trying to list a few exercises that maybe people don't know about or don't usually do. Some of the exercises you're maybe not doing, even if you go to the gym regularly. So like, for example, we know that a big bang for your buck exercise might be like the squat or the deadlift, but I didn't put those on my list because I'm trying to find some things that maybe most people aren't doing that they can include in their routine.
Yeah, and that's a great point. The way that I looked at it when I came up with my list was, like you said, maybe not the most popular movements that are still very good for you in many cases, but functional strength. And I know that word gets sort of abused because we could, define that many different ways, but I'm thinking of like real life, carrying, hinging, that kind of, how does it translate to like unloading groceries, carrying a kid, climbing up something maybe, so.
Yeah, totally.
Because the last thing we want is for people to, and we see this, get gym strong, but then when they're outside of the gym and they need to like kayak 4 miles or, rock climb or climb a ladder or lift a bag of sand, that's hard for them.
That would be an interesting topic for the future, is functional strength, just as a topic, because that's such a, like you said, that's the term gets thrown around a lot, and it's a really fuzzy, blurry term, because really any strength is functional strength. I mean, even if you're just doing bicep curls, that's still, you're strengthening a muscle, and having a stronger bicep is going to improve your function in various things in life. So really any strength is functional strength, which is why it's kind of a BS term in one way, but also it does have some sort of meaning where like some exercises do carry over more to real life than others. That would be a cool future topic. I'm going to write that one down for another fitness episode.
Yeah, do that. I think we could talk for a while on that. So Andy, do you want to start off with your first exercise on the list?
Sure. I was wondering what way you wanted to do this, because I got a couple categories. I mean, I wrote down like full body stuff. I wrote down some core stuff. I wrote down some shoulder health stuff, foundational stuff.
How many exercises total do you have on your list?
I don't know, maybe like 10.
Okay.
I was just jotting some down, like brainstorming. So we'll just see where the conversation goes and which ones I decide to list. I don't know. How many do you have?
5.
Okay, cool. And Ricky sent us a few that he likes, and a couple of his are I would put on my list as well. Actually, his number 1 was on my list.
All right, let's start there actually.
All right, so here's our contribution from Ricky then, because it's on my list too.
Okay.
And that's hanging.
Yeah.
Was hanging on your list?
No, because I knew it would be on yours.
That's really funny. I thought a few of mine might be on your list too, but I'm like, well, they're just too important, so I'm just going to list it.
Yep.
And I know that for you and I, we usually tell people that the number one thing you can do for your upper body is probably just to hang, just for health of the shoulders, health of the spine, all that. It decompresses a lot of things. It's like free traction for your whole body.
Yep.
everything hanging off a pull-up bar. But it's really hard for people too. A lot of people can't hang if they haven't done it in a long time. They maybe lack the grip strength just to hold their body onto a bar. So, strengthening that grip strength is super useful for real life, picking things up and manipulating objects. But the shoulder health component is huge. A lot of people have a hard time getting into full shoulder flexion where the arm is straight overhead. And we want to free up the scapula, let it elevate completely in a full passive hang. We want to strengthen those connective tissues that hold the shoulder in place in that position. Is there anything that you wanted to say about hanging? Because I know that you're passionate about it.
Yeah, well, you
reach all the time to the gym.
Well, you got me into it big time. You and then Ito, obviously, because Ito had the 7 minutes per day for 30 days of hanging.
Yeah, I remember you did that, right?
Well, yeah, I started that after I ended my CrossFit journey because my shoulders were clicking and like clunking like a lot. I didn't have pain, but I knew I was very tight in flexion overhead, like what you said, but I was getting a lot of clunking. And I did the 30-day challenge of hanging for 7 minutes a day, broken up throughout the day. And by the end of that, gone.
Do you know what caused your, you said you had a lot of tightness and difficulty getting that overhead position? Was that tight pecs, do you think?
Yeah, so pecs would be secondary. I think the first was lats.
Lats, okay. I was wondering which one it was. I remember you saying tight lats in the past, but I was wondering what your issue was.
The lats from kipping pull-ups, I had very overdeveloped lats and very underdeveloped mid-trap, mid-back there, as we've talked about many times before. But yeah, the lats, even today, I think I just still have so much scar tissue and buildup in through there. Obviously, my body is totally rebuilt now through our movement training, but the lats were a huge component for being too tight and too strong.
Okay.
Relative, but the hanging helped me. I think we've talked about this article before, but I think it interests the people listening. An orthopedic surgeon a few years ago published an article, and he retired after doing shoulder surgeries for a career.
Oh, I remember this article. Yeah.
Yeah, and he said, looking back at it, if he could give the one piece of advice for people, whether they, post-surgery, pre-surgery, prehab, shoulder strength, prep, all of that, one bang for your buck was hanging, and was by far the biggest bang for your buck. And he did a study on like joint and, or was it tendon and ligament strength through hanging. And he found that the most powerful form of rehab and prehab. So yeah, you read that too, right?
Cool. Yeah. Cool thing about hanging is it's so easy to do any time of day at home. It's not like, let's say doing whatever heavy squats where you're only going to do that like twice a week, maybe, or once a week, whatever your program is. You're going to need some rest. You need the gym to do it. Hanging is something you just put a pull-up bar in your door frame, and you can do that multiple times a day for 10, 20 seconds. Every time you walk by the pull-up bar, it's really convenient and easy to do, and you can do it with a lot of frequency, which is the best way to do it, because it's kind of it is opening up a new range of motion. It's more of a stretch than anything, really. It's strengthener a little bit, but it's something that you can do often, and you can't really overtrain hanging.
Yeah, and you mentioned the stretch portion of it. Like when I get up in the morning, the first thing I do is hang for 15 to 30 seconds. Everything from my neck to my pelvis cracks or pops in different areas, and it's just a beautiful release. And I think it's a good form of traction for people from, to counteract sitting, driving, all of that, where we're just, compressed the whole time.
I've got a question for you, because I was thinking this might apply to some of the different exercises we talked about today. With almost all of my clients, and I think with all of yours too, we pretty much hang. I have very few clients that I don't hang with. It's maybe if they have if it's painful for them for some reason, then obviously we wouldn't. So we hang with pretty much everybody or do some variation on that. But what about the people who can't yet hang? What do you like to start them out with to get them to the point where they can hang from a bar?
Well, I do a few different variations. I think increasing ring row strength helps that, just because there's a grip strength component, scapular strengthening, and then we can load that at varying degrees based on the angle, right? So that's one. But then the other thing is I do toe assisted hanging. So
Yeah,
like, you know how me and you did that hang board channel, the what was it, 10 minutes a day or something? I can't, no, 10 seconds on, 50 seconds off for 10 minutes, remember? But it was only 70% effort. That was with toes on the floor.
right.
So I had a client last week that I assessed, and hanging was hard for her. And so we did 2 toes, like on her tippy toes, for support while she hung, and that worked wonders.
Yeah, so that way you're hanging with maybe 70% of your body weight or 50% instead of your whole body weight.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. And I think it'd be important for people to know, like, a milestone for our clients, and we get many people here, is 2 minutes.
Yeah.
2 minutes passive hang, 2 hands. I think is a really good place to be, and I would recommend people get there before they start one arm variations of hanging.
Right.
Because they can hurt themselves, you know, if they're not prepped for that. So
I'm glad you brought up one arm hangs too, because Ricky had listed that as one of his favorite exercises along with hanging. He liked the one arm variation also.
Yep.
And all hanging is great. So that would be like, maybe if we were to advance it, you can get to the point where you can hang one arm or switch back and forth between arms. I mean, there's a lot of ways to add intensity and complexity to it, but any form of hanging is definitely high on my list.
Yeah, and to finish up the one arm piece, I think it's interesting, and you saw me testing Greg last week with the one arm challenge there. He got 5 minutes back and forth. What a lot of people don't understand is when you hang from one arm and you go back and forth for reps, when you're hanging, you can't just reach up with the other hand because you're going to run out of room. So it requires the scapula to depress, right? And then you can grab the bar, and then you relax, and then you depress, grab the bar. That's a form of strength that is very, very underdeveloped in people.
Yeah, big time. Yep.
Cool.
You want to take us to the next one?
I do. And we could say it sort of falls into the realm of hanging. And again, people listening to this, I'm going to go over some variations of it, so don't get freaked out if you can't do it. The rope climb.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
Rope climb, I think, is I've read articles about this before, but as far as upper body goes and the variations that you can get into with the rope climb with, you know, grip strength, L-set, you know, long strokes, short strokes, you know, there's just so many variations of it. And how functional is the rope climb? I think quite functional. You know, I think it's important. So now, like, I know that a lot of people can't do a legless rope climb, and that's fine, but you can learn to climb with your legs, which is interesting because people think that they need to be able to do a chin up to climb a rope, and that's not true. You need to be able to use your feet.
Yep.
And there's an art to that, you know, and so I think we've seen great benefits with that with clients. Another variation we train them with is literally holding on to the rope and laying flat on their back on the ground.
Yep, I love that one.
So let's lay down like you're going to bed and hold the rope. And then from keeping your feet on the ground, climb until you're standing on your feet.
Yep.
Right. And then lower back down slowly, hand over hand. Don't shimmy down. Hand over hand until you lay down again. And you can do that for reps. And we can have literally anyone start there. A 70-year-old with limited upper body strength can generally start there. Yep. And what's really great with that is you can scale it harder every week or month just by raising your feet higher.
Yeah.
You know,
You know, something I like about that too is it's really fun. I have clients who actually really enjoy doing that because it is, and as much as we're trying not to be in the entertainment industry here, we're trying to have effective exercises, and it is effective. This is one of the ones that's also fun for clients. Rope climbing in general, one of the big benefits is just the confidence boost. People feel really cool when they find out that they can climb a rope all the way to the ceiling. That seems like something that's so far out of reach for people. But like you said, if you learn how to use your feet and stuff, you need to begin there. We have people who can't do chin-ups but can climb all the way to the ceiling in our gym. And that's a really cool thing to achieve.
It is. It absolutely is. And like you said, I think there's a huge confidence piece there. It's a big, big accomplishment to climb 12 feet in the air and know you're stable and secure. And I think that it's a lifelong movement because not only do we have 60-plus-year-old clients doing it, but it's scalable to all levels.
Yeah.
That's, at first I wasn't going to put it in there, but then I was like, well, wait a second. We do this at so many different variations that I think people should have that. And even if they're working out at home or a gym that doesn't have a rope, you can buy short sections of rope and throw it over a low pull-up bar and perform a lot of these variations, not the advanced ones where you're climbing high in an L-sit or something, but what we just described with laying flat on your back and climbing up, or feet on the box and climbing up. You can do that quite low and get quite strong. So
nice. Cool. I like that one. Maybe if I'm picking my next one, I'll try to stick with, because we're talking about some hanging and some shoulder health type stuff. Maybe I'll stick with that topic for a moment. How about let's talk about scapular strength, just because we kind of started with that with the hanging. So for that, I'm putting in active hangs and scapular push-ups.
Awesome.
Which is just basic and foundational, but exercises that not a lot of people know a lot about. And we know that proper movement and control of your scapula is kind of the key to being able to do almost any upper body exercise. If you can't depress and retract your scapula, you're not going to be as strong as you want to be in pull-ups, chin-ups, rows, deadlifts, any of that kind of stuff that people do care about. And a lot of people neglect that depression and retraction component. They never work on it. They've never done active hangs before, or arching pull-ins where you're depressing your scapula and then retracting them while hanging straight arm from a bar. It's a humbling exercise if you've never done it, mainly because it's hard to find those muscles. A lot of people don't have control or awareness of those muscles that control that motion. And on top of that, if you've never strengthened them, you might find that you can't do it, or that your range of motion is very small. Same thing with the scapular push-up. It's, again, that's the straightest anterior that works, which protracts your scapula, foundation for a lot of your pressing strength. And again, a lot of people don't have an awareness of where that muscle is or how to contract it. So I know that you and I have just programmed that like crazy into all of our clients' workouts for the last 5 years, and seen tremendous benefit from it. And I've seen tremendous benefit from both those myself. I don't know if you want to talk about those at all, or.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's spot on. I do those weekly, multiple times per week. And I think it's important to point out that those are straight arm movements. The majority of people like to train bent arm, chin up, pull up, bench press, overhead press, push up. Those are bent arm. Straight arm.
As in your elbow is bending and straightening, whereas the straight arm work, your elbow is going to stay straight the entire time.
And it's a totally different group of muscles.
Awareness.
I was blown away, when I dove into those movements for the first time myself. Like you said, the arch and scap pull in, or an active hang with dead straight arms. Phenomenal movements. And those definitely belong on the list. Same thing with scapular push-ups. To do correctly, hard, but doable. You can do them on your knees, from your feet, different ranges of motion. Great.
Those are things that I'll be doing every single day for the rest of my life. I already do. And they just feel good. Once you've started to do them regularly, they start to feel really good. They start to make you feel like your shoulders a little bit looser and you have better control over them. Those are two things that I just throw in my day all over the place.
Yeah, and I think it's important for us to say to people, like, they can YouTube any of these movements.
Yeah.
So like, if I know that our Co-Movements YouTube channel has a lot of these on there, maybe not all of them, but you know, arching, scap pull-in, scapular push-up, you know, obviously the rope climb is somewhat obvious, but we do have a variation on there. Active hangs, you know, all of those, find them on YouTube, to get good examples, because they might not be able to visualize it, but if they pull it up,
Right.
they can try it for sure. Cool.
Okay. So what do you got? Moving on to.
Yeah, so I love the farmer's carry.
It's on my list. I'm curious if it's on our lists for the same reason. I have a specific reason that I really liked it, and it's I've done farmer's carries for a long, long time, as you know, but I did it for a certain reason, and only very recently have I started doing it for a different reason, and now I have a great appreciation for it. But why do you like farmer's carries?
Well, me personally, I like it for structural stability. So what I mean by that is when you're carrying heavy weight, and I'm saying your body weight or over, obviously it could be much more for certain people, but even like in my circumstance, like 85-pound kettlebells, let's say, you know, for 100 yards, you're pretty wobbly. My grip generally won't fail with that. It won't even be so much a grip issue, but like as far as legs and your core and your traps and your upper back, your whole body gets smoked.
Yeah.
And you become quite wobbly. And like the Co-Movement games that we launched last year, we had a farmer's carry with 70-pound kettlebells for 400 meters for time.
Yep.
And you want to talk about like, and it wasn't so much a grip issue for almost anyone there. It was straight up body. And so that's why I do it, you know. Yeah, that's probably the biggest thing, is just to allow my body to adapt to more load. I know that I do like unilateral versions where you carry one side at a time, and you try to stay straight upright with your shoulders back and engage the core maximally there. But those are my reasons.
Cool. I'm glad that you listed that, because the usual reason that people pick is grip strength. That's the obvious thing. I mean, you're holding on to something that's really heavy, and a lot of times people's grip does give out eventually. And that's the reason that I did it for years, being kind of, as a rock climber, being obsessed with grip strength. I used to use heavy farmer's carries as a way to increase that. And it works great for that. But for me, the main reason for doing farmer's carries is pretty much exactly what you said. One, it's the core strength of trying to be less wobbly, learning how to tighten and brace everything so that your body isn't shaky and moving side to side with each step and not rocking forward and back. But the big thing I've been focusing on lately, and I really like this a lot, is I'm doing it for posture, and specifically for T-spine extension.
Really?
Yeah, and that's a really tough thing for people to connect with. I mean, we know how hard it is to get people to like isolate their T-spine and learn how to extend their T-spine independent of the other parts of their spine, you know, their neck and their lower back. But what I find is when I'm doing a heavy farmer's carry, I have the kettlebells at my side or whatever it is I'm holding, and then I try to extend my T-spine, like kind of pop my chest up a little bit and draw my shoulder blades back. And I love the way that activates my mid back. I think it hits the exact muscles that, you know, when it comes to poor posture, mainly when we're talking about poor posture, we're talking about lack of thoracic extension. Most people are kyphotic in that mid back or that upper back. And I think farmer's carries are a great way to load your back in a way where it's trying to pull you into a kyphotic posture or a rounded shoulder posture. And then you focus on getting the chest up and extending your T-spine. And you can actually feel those muscles that are responsible for perfect posture engaging.
Really?
I really, really like the way that I feel that when I'm doing heavy farmer's carries. I started doing that recently with the hex bar, because you can load that up pretty heavy, the trap bar.
How much are you putting on there for you?
225 last week, and carried it around for 30 seconds. But for me, it was, again, not trying to get the the traps, not trying to get the grip. You know, I was just focusing on get that T-spine extended and go until I feel those muscles fatiguing. And you can actually feel them start to fatigue and your posture starts to worsen. And you start to round forward. And that's when I try to check myself and really extend the thoracic spine again. Because the reason I like that is it's so hard. You know, a lot of people have postural issues, and it's very hard to strengthen the muscles that extend the thoracic spine. First of all, most people aren't aware of where they are, so it's kind of hard to teach. But even when you do know where they are, it's hard to load that area and exercise it and strengthen those muscles. And I found farmers carriers to be super useful for that.
Wow. I'm
going to start doing that more with my clients because I've been experimenting with myself the last few weeks, actually.
Okay.
And I really like the activation that I get in that upper back.
Wow. No. So then when you're walking, no, you're walking, right? Or, okay.
Yep.
Are you focusing on like a posterior pelvic tilt to isolate the T-spine or no?
No, I'm focusing on just a neutral pelvis because I can isolate my T-spine, independent of where my lower back or my pelvis is.
Okay.
But I'm trying to keep everything in nice alignment as far as like a braced core and a neutral pelvis for the most part, but then just isolating that thoracic extension.
So are you then retracting and depressing to extend?
You know, to an extent, but when you flex your T-spine and you actually you know, you bring your chest up, your shoulder blades naturally come backwards. You know, it just naturally fixes that rounded shoulder thing.
Yep.
So you don't really have to focus on retracting your scaps at all. Just that T-spine extension does that automatically. In fact, something for listeners who want to figure out how to improve their posture, we're often told good posture means bring your shoulders back. You know, that's what people are always told, you know, bring your shoulders back. That's good posture, or try to bring your shoulders down. And what I find when people do that is they retract their shoulders because they think that's good posture, but they're still kyphotic in their T-spine. They're not really fixing the right thing. Whereas if you focus on, instead of retracting your shoulders, if you just focus on extending your T-spine, your shoulders naturally drop back to where they're supposed to be. So it's kind of, I think telling people to retract the shoulder blades or get your shoulders back is the wrong way to teach good posture. I think you got to teach how to extend the T-spine, and then your shoulders just end up in the correct place.
Yeah, and people could look up T-spine extension exercises. I think that's a great point that you brought up there. I'm going to try that. So like you're saying, like the muscles required with like press handstands and that mid trap we always talked about, right? That's what you're acting. So I know what to look for when I feel for it. Yeah,
with the press handstand, there is a lot of that. I mean, I think that's more low trap.
Okay.
You know, because, you know, in the farmer's carry, our arms aren't overhead. We're not really activating the low traps too much. We're not trying to depress the scapula. You don't have to because the farmer's carry is already pulling them downward. So it's more just the mid back, the T-spine extension. And I really like these with just, I was doing it with 70-pound kettlebells the other day, which to me is not a heavy farmer's carry, but I could still, when I focus on T-spine extension, I could still feel the muscles that I was trying to activate, actually activating, and finally being under load, which not many other exercises do very well.
Yeah. Wow. I'm excited to try that.
Yeah, cool.
I'm going to do that on Sunday, probably. All right. Sweet. Good. All right. So we shared that one. Do you want to pop another one out there, Andy?
Sure. I've got another one. I've actually got two that are related, and I didn't know which one to go with, so I listed both of them. I have a feeling the first one might be on your list because I know it's one of your all-time favorites, best bang for your buck exercises. This is more of kind of a full body thing, but the Turkish get-up.
Yeah.
Is that on your list?
Yeah.
Okay. Of course, yeah. And with the Turkish get-up, I wouldn't be so much worried about how much you can progress in weight. Like, oh, can I do a 30-pound, a 40-pound, a 60-pound, you know, whatever. I'm more interested in perfect form with the Turkish get-up. Like everyone's goal should be an absolutely picture perfect form Turkish getup, meaning that the arm, the elbow stays locked out the entire time. Your arm stays vertical the entire time. It's not coming out in front of you or to either side.
Yep.
I found with clients, this is incredibly difficult to do.
Yep.
I don't remember the first time that I did it because I've been doing Turkish get-ups for 15 plus years now, but I'm sure that my form was a complete mess when I started with this. And now I'm happy that I can do it with what I consider to be pretty near perfect form. But I think that that's a tremendous goal for a lot of people, is to, number one, get to a perfect form Turkish getup. And once you've achieved that, trying to progress in weight. And I think if you can do a heavy Turkish getup, relative to you with perfect form, you have tremendous mobility in the entire body, stability in the shoulders, a strong core. I mean, that sit-up portion at the bottom is the hardest part for some people.
No, it is for me. If I get that, even no matter how heavy it is towards my 1 rep max, if I get to my elbow, unless I have a brain fart or something, I'll finish the lift.
Yeah. What are the huge benefits that you see from Turkish getup? Like what areas of the body, or?
I don't know, like
everything, right?
The biggest thing that I think of with the Turkish getup is cross symmetry strength. I don't know what the scientific term is, but like right shoulder, left hip, right? Like cross body. Is it nonlinear? Is that what it's called? Nonlinear strength?
Well, this is certainly a nonlinear movement. Yeah. There's rotation and everything. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So like just think about the opposite of being perfectly up and down. That's what this movement trains, and that's what real life is in many cases.
Yep.
And I love the rotational strength. That's huge. It's amazing to me that how many people can do a tremendous amount of sit-ups. Then you have them do anything rotational for their core and the wheels fall off. It's a totally different strength skill set there. And it's a fun movement. You can go for heavy weight. You can do reps on the minute. So like 2 right arm, 2 left arm every minute for 10 minutes. You can do it with dumbbell, kettlebell, on the road traveling. That's it. And you said there's a big mobility piece that you don't realize is there until you see a lot of people try it that can't do it, not because of the weight.
Where do you usually find the lack of mobility? Like which areas of the body?
2 primarily. So like you said, keeping the arm perfectly perpendicular with the ceiling.
So that's shoulder mobility.
Yep, shoulder mobility, big time, especially from when they go to their knee to the lunge position, that always drops forward.
Yep.
The arm drops forward. But then the second place is hip. I don't know if it's like hip flexion or something, maybe, but where they're going from their hand, posting on the hand, getting
and trying to draw the other leg through underneath.
Yeah, I always.
A lot of people can't get that leg through. The knee hits the ground. Yep.
Yes, I call it. They got to find their post. Like, that's the way I word that at least. But like, the knee comes through the hand and the other leg, and then it hits a perfectly perpendicular spot on the ground. And if it's crooked, or they can't get through, or they can't get the hip high enough to get through, that's a mobility issue.
Yep. I love the Turkish getup for exposing mobility issues. You can attempt to do a Turkish getup and just film yourself, or have an experienced coach watch you, and it'll show you all the areas that you're tight and all the areas that you need to work on improving mobility.
Totally. And there's been many coaches and higher level athletes that have coined this as their number one. Like Pavel, the kettlebell coach, he's worked with Olympians. He's worked with, very strong humans. He said that the Turkish getup or the kettlebell swing, are his number ones. Joe Rogan, Charles Poliquin, like the Turkish getup. There's a lot of people that have said, this could be one of the top.
Yep. And you know what else is in there is some spinal mobility, because you have to open up your chest towards the ceiling during kind of the mid phase of it, when you're trying to draw the leg through. And a lot of times the reason that the arm drops down is because people's chest is facing towards the floor. They can't like kind of rotate their spine. So yeah, there's just a lot in there. I like it a lot for shoulder stability too. You know, I mean, you're trying to prevent the wobbling around of the weight as you try to keep the arm vertical. You're going through a huge range of motion. At one point, the arm is out in front of you at the bottom. In the middle of the movement, the arm is out to the side. Towards the top of the movement, the arm is overhead. So you're getting like all different ranges of motion, and you have to control and keep the shoulder stable in all of those different positions. Yeah, very, very cool for that. I think a lot of people would notice their pressing strength, and especially if they're working on things like handstands and stuff, that added shoulder stability is going to help out a lot. You know, you get good at Turkish get-ups, and all of a sudden your overhead presses and handstands and things like that are going to be a lot better.
Yes. And, you know, I look at this like as a longevity movement. So if you can be 90 years old and with a 5-pound dumbbell, do a perfect form Turkish get up left and right side.
You're an elite 95-year-old.
Huh?
You're healthy.
Well, I know, because like, and I don't know, I think it's very doable if you don't lose it, because again, we're talking 5 pounds here. So it's not a weight thing. It's more of a movement pattern piece, right?
Yep.
But what a goal that would be.
Yeah. Like I said, I think a perfect form is the goal. What do you think once you've achieved perfect form, and this is all, it's totally individual, but for yourself, what do you like as like a strength goal for yourself down the line, like 50% of body weight, about that?
Yep, 50%. Yeah, I've exceeded that, but yes, 50% body weight. But I would say that for the generalists out there, and again, it depends on age and background and whatnot, but I think a third body weight is very doable for a lot of people. But like you said, form is first, movement, quality. But yeah, the higher levels, like I weigh 165, and I did a few weeks ago without training this for probably 3 to 4 months, I did 90 pounds. And I only weigh 165. My record is 105. That's when I was actually training it weekly to try to max, and I hit that with both arms. But yeah, it's yeah, I would say half body weight. But again, like when you look at if someone's 220, you know, 100, yeah, I did 105, I guess, at 165. Yeah, it's a lot of weight.
Yeah, for sure. One thing I like about this too is that you can split it up and you can work on different portions of the movement. You can work on just the sit-up portion, then you come back down. Or you can work on like an overhead lunge, just going to the knee and then coming back up.
That's what I did. When I did work to that 105, I isolated a lot of the bottom. Because like I said, getting that rotational strength to get to your elbow took a lot of development, because it's not what most people think being just core. There's a huge hip bridge in there also. So if I'm rolling to my left elbow, obviously I'm rotating my core, but I'm driving off my right leg. Very, very harder, I would say, that I'm compressing or rotating with that core. So that's a strength, you know, piece with the glutes and the hamstrings to get there. But I isolated that to a very high level because I knew that once I got there, I could do a reverse lunge with that. But yeah, that's good. So we both had that one.
Maybe I'll add into this, because I said there were 2 exercises that are very related. The other one I was thinking of was the windmill.
I have that too.
Okay. And it's very similar to a Turkish get-up in terms of the shoulder stability. You know, you're doing the exact same thing with your shoulder as you are on the Turkish get-up. It's a slightly different position, and it does work some different muscles in the lower body, but it's kind of related to the Turkish get-up in the shoulder mobility, shoulder stability sort of way.
Totally. I love that movement. I just did it Wednesday.
I did it yesterday with one of my clients, and for the first time, I don't know why I never really bothered to challenge myself with how much weight I could do. Because again, this is one where form, well, with everything, form is everything. Like you want to get that down first. But yesterday I was doing it with, and this wasn't super heavy, but I was doing it with 50 pounds.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, that's significant.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm more than happy to be able to do that amount of weight. And I just loved the feeling of it. You know, I loved the feel of my shoulder being stable and secure.
Yes. Yeah.
And then I guess we could talk about the lower body mobility aspect of it too. You know, it requires some hamstring flexibility. It requires some awareness of hip hinging, but unilaterally, which is super cool.
Yep.
And was there anything you wanted to say about the windmill?
No, just that's really it for me. A workout's funny that you combine those two, because they're both on my list, but B, I actually do a workout when I'm limited for time that blasts me, and anyone can do this. It's 10 reps per arm for time, and I like to go unbroken, so 20 reps without setting the weight on the ground. You do a Turkish get up to standing, windmill, reverse back down the Turkish get up to the ground. And then you switch sides. So if I did left side, it'd be right side, Turkish get up, stand, windmill, reverse it back down, left side. And I'll do 10 per arm. And I am soaked, and I feel like I just wrestled a grizzly bear. And if you set the stage, and this is, again, it's individual, like you don't need to do 20 unbroken, but if you do, it's a survival game within yourself, because you can rest at the bottom laying down. You just can't set the weight on the ground. So think about this. You can rest with the arm locked out overhead. You can set the weight on your chest, but that weight's crushing you and you're already breathing hard. And then you have to press the weight back off your chest to start again. It's a sort of a sick game. But,
trying to figure out where to conserve your energy and how to make it efficient. Well,
yeah, and by about rep 7 or 8, you're like, oh shit, like I'm in a battle here. And you know, I've done 50-pound dumbbell multiple times. That's the weight I use for 20 reps unbroken in under 10 minutes. I've got like 9:15, I think.
What a tremendous full body workout that is in 10 minutes.
Well, and think about it. It's a rep every 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So you're getting up pretty effortlessly. The windmill is the one that limits me. It's not the 50-pound on the Turkish get up. But it's at this point, it's not my lungs. For some people, it definitely would be, but it's the windmill. That windmill starts to really rock me to where I need to be dialed in so I don't lose that weight.
What's the hard part of the windmill for you? Is it lower body or upper body, or is it just the whole thing?
I don't know. That's a great question. It's definitely for me on the one side, it's my shoulder, not pain or any weirdness. It's just weaker, you know, in that lower end range. But then my core is getting smoked twice in that movement, because you gotta, I'm sorry, 3 times. You gotta roll to the elbow and get up. That's that same rotation. And then you're rotating again on the windmill, and then you gotta unrotate coming down. So yeah, it's
a tremendous core exercise, because there's so much bracing through everything. You know, your core never gets a rest in either of these 2 movements.
Yeah, if I could do one workout from here till the end ever, that potentially could be my workout.
That's a good one. Yeah, I like that a lot. Very cool. All right.
Yeah, so I've only got one more on my list, because me and you have duplicated 3 of them.
That's cool. Good. I like we're on the same page.
Yeah, this is a great movement it would be highlighted generally as the lower body, but I think it's full body timing, explosiveness, coordination is the kettlebell swing. And I'm not a kettlebell junkie. I know we've mentioned it a lot in this chat, but the swing is great. I think it's hard to train explosiveness in the general population while keeping them safe.
Right.
So like power clean, snatch, box jump, a lot of those are out of the question for most people.
Definitely. You can end up in injury.
Kettlebell swing doesn't fall into that category. And you can scale it with weight, like you could do 5 pounds or you could do 100 pounds. it translates, I think, to a lot of stuff with hip extension, glute strength, hamstrings, scapular stability. You know,
Brace core at the top so that you're not being pulled forward and backward by the weight. Yep.
Big time. You can turn it into an aerobic workout, a strength workout. You can turn it into a form workout. You know, one of my favorite kettlebell workouts, and anyone listening to this can try it. I mean, you got to have enough weight for it to get the effect, but would be 10 swings, and then your rest is 10 breaths. Not any seconds, but like breathe, 1, breathe, 2, and then 10 again. So you do 10 sets of that. And so I'll do 88 pounds. I'll do 10 swings, 10 breaths, 88 pounds for 10 sets. And that's my whole workout. And doesn't take long, but I'll tell you, the first 3 or 4, you're like, huh, not bad. As the workout goes on, the breaths increase, which means your rest decreases and your fatigue is up.
Yep.
So that's sort of another sick little battle I play with myself.
You know, maybe I've got Ricky's list here. Maybe I'll throw in another one of his so we can have him contribute on this, even though he's not on the podcast with us. He added 2 that looked interesting to me. He liked, I guess I'll say the Bulgarian split squats. That was one of Ricky's. Yep. It's definitely an underutilized exercise. You don't see too many people doing that. And that would be, some people might call it a rear leg elevated split squat, but where you have your back leg on a bench or a step behind you. Yep. And you're doing basically a 1 leg squat on your front leg. Yep. Just phenomenal unilateral strength training for the lower body. I think for people who are trying to improve their squats and maybe have found like a sticking point or a plateau, it'd be a good idea to change out the squats they've been doing for Bulgarian split squats for a little while to try to see if they can even out some imbalances if one leg is stronger than the other. You also get a nice hip flexor stretch on the rear leg, which is really cool. A lot of people have tight hip flexors. So that was a good contribution by Ricky, I think, the rear leg elevated split squat. I know I have a lot of my clients do that. Yep. I know you've done plenty of them in the past. Yep.
That was one of my top movements for a while when I was training with James Fitzgerald. They're a huge fan of that movement. Yeah, and your heart rate skyrockets when it's heavy. You're very sore the next day.
Yeah, those things kill me.
Yeah, they're brutal. I don't so much go to them now as much, but it's not because they're not great. I think for me, it's more the recovery is quite a bit from the nervous system and soreness demand. But
yeah, and I'm not trying to strengthen my legs too much anymore, but you know, a lot of people are, and if they are, that is a good exercise to think about and have in the rotation every now and then.
Yep, I know James would always shoot for a 3rd body weight per hand for 8 reps. So if you weigh 150, yep, you have 50s per hand.
Oof, yeah.
8 reps.
That'll smoke you.
And the rule with the rear leg elevated was the target was knee cap. So
that's the height of the bench.
Yeah, the toe had to be on a kneecap height box or bench, knee to the floor, and then 50s per hand if you weighed 150.
Gotcha.
And that you want to puke after sometimes. Those are heavy.
How about a lower body mobility sort of thing? One that comes to mind for me are straddle ups. Yep. That's something I never did until you taught those to me maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And I got a lot of benefit from those because I was terrible at them at first. I had really tight adductors, the inner thigh muscles, and really tight hamstrings. And when I started doing these, I was doing them off of a box that was maybe 18 inches high, 16 inches high. And it took me a while to progress to the point where I could do them off the floor. But I think that those things did wonders for my tight inner thigh muscles, which is something that a lot of people deal with. And I know that you did these for a couple of years.
Yeah, that's my number one still today is straddle ups. And it took me about 18 months to be able to do it from the floor. And I actually hit my first rep from the floor in Costa Rica.
Cool.
I was psyched. But yeah, that is the whole lower body. hamstrings, adductors, you know, I don't know, it's targeting a lot there. And it's a muscle group that for most people is super, super tight. I think it's important for people to understand when they look that movement up, straddle up, to keep their legs locked.
That's what I was just going to say is I like the awareness piece because it's shocking to me how many people who've never done this before, you tell them, you know, you're coaching and you say, we're going to keep our legs locked, and you demonstrate how to do it. And then they get it, they say, okay, cool. And then they go to do it and their knees are bent 30 degrees.
Yes.
And you say, okay, cool. Like now we're going to work on straightening those knees out a little bit, and they just can't do it, or something's not clicking. But keeping, whether it's straight arm movements or straight leg movements, keeping that joint locked out is very difficult for people. It's really hard to focus on doing a certain movement with like other body parts, like, you know, your hips and the straddle ups, but remembering to keep your knees locked and having awareness of that, that position.
I totally agree. One word of caution I can tell people is if they look it up and they want to start playing with this, to go slow.
Yeah.
This movement is very common for messing people up if you try to just be a champion tomorrow with it. I've seen it in person, and I've also heard, you know, clients that didn't listen to us that they pull a hamstring, upper hamstring generally, where it inserts into the glute, or their adductor groin muscle.
Yep.
You know, some people even knee pain on the inside of the knee. So like,
build up.
It's not a movement that you're like, yeah, like, let's see if I can do the forward today and force my way there any way possible. On the reversal, on the way back down, or hitting the top, there's a chance something could go. But if you take it serious and you want this to be like where we are maintenance mode with it, where like cold, we can do it from the floor. It's taken years. B, we went through the process of, like you said, you started on a bench or a box, like 20 inches, 16 inches, 15 inches, 12, like, and then I remember I was stuck at 4 for a long time, probably 3 months. And then I finally jumped from 4 to the floor. But yeah, don't hurry it. I don't think.
No, this is, you got to remember that it's, even though we're moving, it's a stretch. And as you move through that range of motion, you're going to be stretching those muscles, the hamstrings and the inner thigh muscles throughout the movement. And just don't rush it. Don't try to push it too hard. Just like with any stretch, you don't want to just violently do it because you're just going to pull something. You know, work on it slowly and allow it to be a long process. You know, just try to go down an inch every couple of weeks or whatever, and it won't take you too long to get to lower and lower levels, but just don't push it.
Totally. One piece I want to add to the mobility thing, I don't have it on my list, but it's something that everyone, and I do this weekly, can help with counteracting their poor posture. It's called a low bridge wall rotation. So they can look that up. Ito has a video. I think we even have a video on there, to where your back is to the wall and you plant your hand against the wall at a varying height, and then you rotate and you match your hand against the wall, and then you rotate back out of it. The lower on the wall that you go with those hands, it is a significant extension in the T-spine, low back, and the neck that I think is done correctly, really, really good for most people to do that. The low bridge.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of working on the bridge position, like, you know, you see little kids do, or gymnasts do, where they're on the ground with their hands over their, you know, behind their neck or behind their head, and they push themselves up into a bridge and they're arched over. That takes a lot of shoulder mobility and spinal mobility to be able to achieve that. And, you know, depending on how long it's been since you've done it and your age and fitness level and so on, it might take you a really long time, or you might never be able to get to a full bridge on the floor. But just working into that range of like full spinal extension and overhead shoulder mobility is, you know, it's use it or lose it. And we don't ever use that in daily life. So working on it in the gym is really important.
Well, I'm a prime example of that. I never got a full bridge from the floor. I never did a bridge to a back where you kick over the bridge kick over.
Yeah.
I've never done them. I trained them very hard. I've gotten decent at it, and but it was one of those things like what you said, where you use it or you lose it. As a kid, I never had it. I never tried it. And then I got into CrossFit and became very rigid. Well, rigid, compared to someone that can do a bridge.
Right.
But then even with Ito, I trained it a lot with the wall variations, the low bridge rotations, feet elevated. And I never got could I fake it or maybe get a quick picture? Sure. But to do like what you can do from a low bridge rotation, low bridge on the floor.
Yeah, I used to do those a lot as a kid, and I never stopped doing them, which that's pure luck. I just enjoyed doing them. I'm glad that I never stopped. Now I understand the benefit of it, but yeah.
If there was one movement as a kid growing up through my adulthood that I could go back and fix, or if I knew to do, would be that. Because you're right. I think it's like where we are, like with straddle ups, where we're good now, we're good to go, like, maintenance mode, whatever. That's where if you, as a 3, 4, 5, 6-year-old, all the way up through, just kept that bridge, and like what you have now, right? Like you're 39, right? 38,
39.
39. Like you're doing a full back bridge, like that's pretty crazy. And I guarantee you're doing it at 55 or 60. Like,
yeah, as long as I keep doing it.
Yeah, for sure. I wish I had that. And I'm not saying and I may go back and see what I can do, but I can tell you that's very hard for me.
But those wall bridge rotations you're talking about did wonders for you. I mean, it really increased your range of motion and your mobility there.
Oh yeah, and like I can do, a perfect line handstand. I can, there's the upper body mobility is there for most things. But as far as that extreme full spine extension with opening the chest, locking the arms, pressing the chest through at the top, can't do it. I'm not saying people listening can't achieve it, but that low bridge wall rotation, I think, is for everyone at all ages. And then you can work lower, lower, lower. And then maybe they want to get to a point where they're doing a back bridge, but with their feet elevated. I used to do a lot of them with my feet on a 20-inch box. So I'd put a 20-inch box, and then I would achieve the same range of motion that you can do on the floor, where the chest is pushed through, the head is through, and the arms are locked.
Right.
So, everyone can play with that.
Totally scalable. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to shoulder health for just a sec, because I just think that that's an area that a lot of people need work on. It seems to be like when you see clients who have issues with their body somewhere, shoulders tend to be where I see the biggest issues with mobility and just range of motion and just not being able to get in certain positions. Two things that I really like, and we've already talked about hanging and stuff, but I love arm circles. I mean, you see me do those all the time. And that's basically just raising a dumbbell up in front of you, overhead, and then back behind you and all the way around with the straight elbow. And the reason I added this to the list is just because it seems very simple to me, and it's a very simple exercise. But once again, I'm constantly surprised by how difficult that movement is for clients to do, for most people to do. Bent elbow all the time. They can't, when they try to bring it back around, it goes out to the side instead of going back behind them. I think that working on that exercise and really focusing on keeping the elbow locked and trying to get like as big of a circle as you can, and learning how the scapula is involved in that. Like when you're bringing it up in front of you, your scapula is protracted. When you're up overhead, you elevate your scapula as much as you can. When you bring it back behind you, you're kind of retracting your scapula. Your scapula is always going in the direction that the weight is. And that's kind of the key to having a good range of motion there. Just once again, I think people don't, when they're moving their arm, they don't move their scapula enough. And I think that that's a good one to kind of teach you how, if you move your scapula properly, you can get your arm to go through this huge range of motion. And if your scapula is just stuck in place, then you're going to see the elbow bending. You're going to see the arm going out to the side. You're going to see a lot of limitation there in that movement. So for me, it's as a trainer, it's almost more of an assessment tool. I like to watch people try to do arm circles and then just see where they're getting stuck, where their elbow is bending, you know, or whether they're able to do the movement completely. And then pointing that out to a client and saying, you know, we're going to try to achieve this and get them to start focusing on, you know, the full range of motion and what do I need to do to get my arm to go through a more complete, perfect range of motion on that.
People look up, is it dumbbell arm circle?
That's a tough one because I think if you look up arm circle, you're going to get like a huge variety of different exercises.
Yeah.
Back in gymnastics bodies, I seem to remember that they had a Chinese name for it or something. They called it like a Chow Ping or something.
Yeah. It's like, I think it's XIOPENG.
Yes. Yeah. Something like that. I've tried looking that up on YouTube and I think I'm spelling it wrong because I can't find it.
Okay. And that might
we
be
do those all the time with our clients and probably, I'm not sure if you go on the co-movement, you know, on our YouTube channel, we might have arm circles. Jake might be demonstrating them. I'm not sure.
Okay. Yeah.
I feel like they're on there.
I'm not sure. Yeah, but you're right. That name, I think, you know what, we're on it here. I'm just going to YouTube because this is, I know people will want to look this up. XIOPENG. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's right here.
Does it come up?
Yeah, perfect. So it's XIOPENG. I had it right.
Oh, nice. Well done.
And there's a bunch of people here doing it exactly. It's called, and then some of them are put forward after, FORWARD.
Because you can do them in both directions.
Yeah. But yes, and I agree. Great movement. I do them. I love them for warm-ups. You can do them for strengthening too. Do them against the wall to keep your range of motion, you know, straight up, straight down. That adds some difficulty. Yeah, very good movement for people and very hard.
And the other one that I would add there, because we haven't talked about any external rotation, is dumbbell Cuban rotations.
Yes.
That's, of all of the external rotation things that you can do, that's been by far my favorite, because typically you see people do the one where they set their elbow on their knee and they're doing this. And I just find that that's so easy to fall into a forward shoulder, like a rounded forward shoulder posture when you lower the weight down. Versus Cuban rotations, if you can keep good T-spine extension, and you can remember to keep your shoulders retracted if you cue that. I just find that it's easier to do a good full external rotation in the shoulder while keeping the scapula in the correct position. And I know that you do those a ton too, but external rotation is just something that people need to train more of. You know, we talk about it all the time. We're always hunched over computers. We're always internally rotated. If you have a fitness background and you've done a lot of pressing, bench pressing and stuff, then you probably have tight pecs. You know, and just that external rotation is something we need to do to counteract pretty much the way that we live our daily lives, all internally rotated and kind of getting tight in those anterior shoulder muscles and those external rotators.
Yeah, and you don't need a lot of weight to get a huge bang for that movement if you do it right.
Right. Yeah. I usually do it with like 10 pounds. I mean, I can go up to 12 or 15, but like I can grab 5-pound dumbbells, and as long as I'm focusing on form, I feel it exactly where I want to.
Totally. And you, like you said, it's a muscle that isn't trained much because it's not a pushing movement. It's pulling with an external rotation. I think that really bulletproofs the shoulder in a lot of ways, you know. People could benefit. Definitely. What was that called? You said dumbbell
Cuban rotation.
Yep.
That's easy to find on YouTube.
Definitely.
Did you, I'm not sure if you had anything else you wanted to add. Do you want to throw in anything do you have like a favorite core exercise? That's something that people absolutely love. I was thinking, for me, just thinking along the lines of something that most people don't do, because people do a lot of spinal flexion type stuff like crunches and sit-ups. People do a lot of planks and side planks, like great exercises, but that's pretty well known. I know that we've done a lot of hollow body holds in the past, and that's one that not many people know about. And I find it to be more effective than a plank for strengthening the core in the way that I want to, for training that posterior pelvic tilt that a lot of people don't know how to engage, and that might be required for more advanced movements down the line.
That's my personal favorite. If you're looking at choosing
the hollow body hold.
Yeah, I call it the back body line. So on Co-Movement's channel, if they type in back body line, that's what it's under. But yeah, that's getting into the hollow body. That's what that coach is. Now, when people do this, and we see this all the time, is they have to make sure the low back is pressed actively into the ground the whole time they're holding that position.
Right.
You can see the video that I shot for that example on YouTube. There's no gap where my low back is. It's like if someone was standing on my stomach, pressing me flat, stapled to the floor. That's what they need to be activating in that movement, because I see people do it with their feet almost level with the floor, but they have a 2-inch arch in their low back.
Right.
There's little, if any, core going on there. It's probably just some hip flexors and, some other stuff, but
yeah, that's the thing that I like it for, is teaching you how to do a posterior pelvic tilt and hold that those muscles contracted. That's a really difficult piece for people to gain awareness of. We've been training people to do posterior pelvic tilts in the gym for a long time, and it does take a long time for people's brain to connect with, how do I rotate my pelvis, tuck my tail under me, squeeze my glutes, squeeze my abs, and just contract all those muscles in the proper way. The hollow body hold is probably the best way I can think of to strengthen that position, and to also, you got that cue of making sure that the lower back stays in contact. Once the lower back starts to arch up and come out of contact with the floor, then you know that you've lost the position.
Yes.
Super useful for that.
Yeah, that's great. Good job bringing that up, the core, the back body line. That's good. That's a very good one.
Well, cool. I think we hit some good ones here. What do you think?
Yeah, well, geez, if people, implement those and research them, play with them, that's a lot of years of us training, with Ricky included in there, with just sort of diagnosing what works, and it's super effective. So, and we even gave some sample workouts in there.
Yeah.
So give them a shot.
Nice. Yeah. And anyone who goes to our gym is familiar with most of these, if not all of them.
For sure.
We do them all the time and with great results.
No, absolutely. Cool. Well, let's we're sign off. I just want to give a few reminders. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Again, it's growing every week, which is cool. Our views are going up, subscribers are going up. So we thank you for that. Forward this to a friend or family member that you think can benefit from some really awesome exercises. That would be cool. If you're looking to get coached by us, we're pretty close to full with our private coaching at this point. Good news is that there's always openings that do pop up. We just had one pop up last week, so that was cool. We slid someone in there. We do online coaching through our Achieve Coaching program, individualized remote programming, or generalized based programming, that people can find a huge value in. And that's it. Send us your questions, or if you want us to do a show on a specific topic or address something, we will.
Yeah, please let us know.
Yeah, with anything, and if we can't or don't know enough, we definitely won't do it. But food questions, training questions, lifestyle questions, we'll hammer it. So
yep, absolutely.
Cool. All right, we're sign off, and thanks for everyone listening, and we're talking next week.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, guys.
See you, Andy.
See you, buddy.